She says, I'm not sure where to start. I started my journey May 2017. I learned my TDEE is 2400. I've been eating 1700 and have only lost 13 pounds. I know you talk about eating fruits and vegetables, but with all of my health issues, vegetables and greens are out, as well as most fruits. I don't understand why I'm not losing weight. When I take a lower deficit, I'm too hungry. What am I doing wrong? I know with this month's challenge, I'm going to get in better habits of doing chair exercises. Any suggestions would be appreciated. Thanks. So there's a lot of really good information that I don't have in this, and I'm going to have to kind of guesstimate here. And again, if you're somebody who is really struggling like Crystal is, this would be a great open office hours, by the way. So if you have not yet scheduled something like that with me, please go into the forums, type in open office hours and fill out the survey so you and I could actually talk it out a little bit better, because this could have a lot of moving pieces to it. And I'm going to have to kind of try and assume some of this information. So you mentioned fruits and vegetables, which is all perfectly good. And I'm sorry to hear that there's a medical condition that's prohibiting you from doing it. So the fruits and vegetables at the end of the day are going to add a lot of bulk to your meals and fiber and water. And so obviously, due to whatever the medical situation is, that's not an option. So what I would do is, you mentioned green vegetables are out. Assuming maybe some kind of vegetable would be in there. I don't know if cauliflower would work, or if, really anything that's not green, tomatoes, bell peppers. I mean, I don't know if any of these vegetables would work, but I would definitely look at any that would, and I would start to work those in. What I would suggest to you is, if veggies and fruits are very minor on what you can consume, then I'm going to have to go on the assumption that most of your meals are mostly being comprised of fats, carbohydrates in the form of some kind of a processed carbohydrate, and some kind of protein. So really, at this stage, if you're saying I can't eat less, so in a perfect in a perfect ideal world, we would jack up the vegetable content to really fill out your plate. So you could cut back on the processed carbs, the proteins, and the fats, which are going to basically produce a less volume, hence why you're probably hungry at 1700 calories, and a high calorie. So high calorie, low volume, which is just the opposite of what we want. So my first thought for you was, I would be focusing on jacking up the really, really lean protein. I don't know what protein grams you're currently hitting, but what I have seen is that when the diet is limited, if we can jack up the really good lean protein, and when I say lean protein, what I would be referring to are protein shakes, because really you're looking at getting a full scoop of protein, about 25 grams. For something like 100 calories. Okay. I would focus on maybe getting in a protein shake to fill you up a little bit, maybe even add a little bit of Greek yogurt if dairy is okay for you, to again, add something of substance to that. And then what I would be looking at is your very lean chicken, your very lean pork. I'm sorry, not pork, turkey. I'd be looking at the extremely low calorie, high protein foods, and really combining those, because what protein does is it is extremely good at satiation, really, really good at satiation. So if I'm talking to somebody who can't have fiber, bulk, and water, my next toggle button, if you will, would be, can we jack that protein crazy high? Because it's going to make you satiated. So imagine you have a cup of egg whites for breakfast, right? That's about 100 calories, about 20-ish, 25 grams of protein. Say we throw in a 4-ounce chicken breast, that's going to be about another 140 calories, another 30-ish grams of protein. I might throw all that in combined, right? And then I would maybe think about using a couple, maybe an ounce of avocado. And I would be really jacking up. I would take a look at some of those processed carbs and look if I can strip those down and ultimately add in some protein. That is probably what is going to help you feel the most satiated to ultimately help. The other thing that protein and the veggies would bring to you would be the thermic effect of food, more so than the processed carbs and or the fats. You're going to have to work harder for your body to be able to use those effectively. So that's another reason why I'm recommending focusing on the very lean protein. And honestly, and I'm not recommending this, please hear that I am not recommending this, but if you look at these things like these protein, medically backed diets that so many people go on that I don't advocate, but I'm just using this as an example. They basically have these people on 800 to 1,000 calories a day of almost straight protein. And that's how they're losing the weight that they are in such a short time span. It's a protein sparing fast, okay? And I'm not recommending that. But what I am saying is, there is something we could borrow from that idea, which is if you're talking 800 to 1,000 calories of almost straight protein, that might be a really good foundation for you. And then take a look at the carbs and the fats and say, okay, I'm right now eating 1,700. Could I cut that back a little bit? So since you can't do the vegetables, which would be ideal because they're super low calorie, super bulky, super filling, then our next thing to rest on would be the protein. Now, what I would assess from what you've said here is that if you're losing at the rate you are, which we're talking May to May, and now we're in October, May, June, July, August. So basically, yeah, you're losing less than a pound per month. And that's why if you can't go lower on calories right now because you're not satisfied, I would start looking at what we call macronutrient breakdown. And that's where I would focus my attention. So if you go, Heather, right now, I don't think I can eat below 1,700, then let's take a look for the last couple weeks. Where were your protein grams? How much were you getting in carbohydrate? How much were you getting in fat? If you find the protein is not that high, and you can look at it as in a couple different ways. You can look at it in grams, or you can look at it in percentages. If you're thinking about 30% or more of your diet in protein, that would be a great thing to kind of be gearing yourself towards, because if we can jack the lean protein up, it's going to make you feel fuller. Imagine, just for a second, everyone imagine this. Imagine at every meal you're having 2 full protein sources, right? You're having the cup of egg whites, the chicken breast at breakfast. You maybe have a protein shake, and you combine it with a lean piece of fish for lunch or a can of tuna. You're going to be rocking roughly at least 150 grams of protein from breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's a lot of protein in those meals, and it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks in your stomach. And I've done this. And if you're doubling up on your protein sources at each meal, you're going to feel like something like a lead brick is sitting in your stomach, because that's a lot of protein to take in, but it's going to make you satiated. And if each one of those forms of protein is about 100 calories each, give or take a little, you're really only looking at 600 to 800 calories in all that protein. But when it comes to how it feels in your body, it's crazy noticeable. So that would be one, like if I'm just high level taking in this question, that would be the very first thing. The second thing is, you mentioned the chair exercises. So if somebody is way sedentary, I mean, meaning you're just not up moving around a lot, your step count's on the low end, that can really drop your like, so I know we think the TDEE is 2,400, but if the tracking is 100% here, you're weighing and measuring every piece of food that's going in your mouth, and you're eating 1,700 calories, I would make the argument your TDEE is probably not 2,400. Wherever that initially came from, I would assume that that's pretty off, because for you to have lost the amount of weight you've lost to this point, if that's everything has been actually accurately reported, right? I would say you're probably looking at best maybe 2,000 calories is your TDEE if you're going to go based on those numbers. Now, can that alter? Absolutely. Could you maybe become more physically active and start walking a lot more? And again, because you're mentioning chair exercises, I'm going on the assumption that mobility is an issue right now. So more physical activity. jacking the protein way up, and like I kind of was making the suggestion, like somewhere in that 600 to 800 calories of straight protein, breakfast, lunch, and dinner combined, right? And kind of jacking those protein grams up for satiation, and to ultimately help pare back how much carbs and fats you're eating to reduce the calories a little bit. But this is, the good news is you're losing. So that right off, just want to say that good, you are losing and you're moving in the right direction. You're monitoring this, you're obviously tracking, you're doing a lot of really, really good. I would say if ultimately the protein hasn't been in the realm that we're talking about, I would make that alteration, maybe give it 6 weeks, see if that starts to produce a quicker weight loss. If you were to change the composition of your meals and kind of switch out how you're eating, and then see what can be done for more physical activity. That would be my next move. But you're moving in the right direction. You're just not moving at the clip that you would like. And so those would be some things I would look at. And then ultimately at some point, maybe see, and another thing, and I don't really know what the issue is with the vegetables, but another thought would be, and I don't know if this is possible, if it's the digestion of the vegetables, because what you might want to try doing is actually taking vegetables and adding them to those protein smoothies where they're basically pulverized, and your stomach wouldn't have to work as hard, but you would still be getting the fiber and some of the micronutrients that you need from it. Just a thought there moving forward. So I hope that helps. In the end, you're moving in the right direction. Your trend line is going down. It's just going down really, really slowly. And I get why that would be so frustrating. And so if I was in your shoes, based on what I can assess here, and I know what I know now, I would say if I could get more physical movement in, even if it meant doing more chair exercises each day, I would start to look at my macronutrient breakdown and see what I could do to really jack up my protein, and see if I can transition down on the carbs and the fats a little bit, and know that that protein is going to make me feel more satiated for longer, to where I could probably cut some of that other food out. And that would be my master plan, to try out for about 6 weeks and give it a go before I, to see if it makes a difference or not. But again, if you do that and you still need help, getting on the phone might be better, because I could more clearly know the ins and outs and all the little things that are going on. But I hope that helps.